All right. Well, you can talk
I
about
do.
that.
No,
Here we go.
I do have some questions, but you said we're not doing any aha stuff.
Well, no. Aha. You can ask whatever you want. And we're live.
Indeed, we are. This is the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast that was so ordained by the Most High that you are listening, watching, or whatever you're doing tonight to absorb and manifest the glory of the libertarian message brought to you by myself, Marcus Matthews, the only real libertarian. And as usual, I am joined by my good man, Eric Parker, Bold Liberty, currently out of North Carolina. How are you doing this fine evening, my good man?
I'm doing good. I learned something in the, I guess, backstage for the show with our guest that's about to come on. So I'm in High Point, North Carolina. It's right next to, in between Winston-Salem and Greensboro. And our guest coming on tonight actually grew up in Winston-Salem. So maybe we'll get into that, maybe not, but that's trivia for later.
And speaking of high points, we want to go to the number one high point owner, firearms owner in the state of Florida, with his Glock 40.
I thought you already talked. I thought you already introduced yourself there.
No, everybody knows I'm behind enemy lines in the great state, the fourth largest economy in the United States.
We know, we get it.
You guys, every time that's all you have. All you have is the fourth. But hold on, isn't it an economy that's basically sustained by government, like for real?
Hey,
so you're not really bragging at all. And in reality, like you started taking away the rest of us, it might all go downhill pretty quickly. Now, with that, I would like to ask one quick question. So,
this is Tub, everyone.
Thank you. A little while back, you were on Are You Smarter Than a Politician?
Yes, I was.
And I believe that you were the quickest one to be flagged as not a real libertarian. It was quick.
Quite possibly. And that's what haters do. When you present yourself with the facts and the truth and the aura of liberty that glows behind you, you're going to have those people that are just naturally jealous when you walk in the room.
Listen, I don't know what your mom told you as you were getting on that short bus every day, that it's everybody else that's wrong. It's not everybody else, Marcus. Everybody else recognizes it. You're the only one who doesn't get it. Like, okay. Marcus is on the short bus going, Mom always said to be one strange kid, but I can never find him.
All right, well, speaking of strange kids.
That's real.
Yeah, we have I'm not saying our guest is a strange kid.
A bit, though.
I look at, this is a libertarian podcast, and we look at the duopoly, and sometimes they are the strange kids. And I wouldn't necessarily call our guest tonight a strange kid unless he's willing to call himself a strange kid, because that's what libertarians do. We believe you should be you. And with that being said, we also believe that you should listen to everybody, because there's always a message to be had. Even from people you disagree with, because at some point in this great enterprise of America, we have to start finding common ground. And tonight, we have a special guest, which is perplexing to me as the only real libertarian, because this is our second Republican in a row. And not only that, he is also from the great state of Florida.
And Jacksonville.
And Jacksonville.
Duval. I'm feeling surrounded by the most headline people in every American newspaper or headline, a Florida man. And it's never a good thing, but tonight it's actually a good thing, aside from Tub. Tonight we bring to you Mr. Mark Kaye, the legendary Mark Kaye. How you doing, my good man?
I disagree with everything you said. No, I'm just kidding.
Started well. Great. So do we.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. So you're just like interviewing Florida men? Is that what's happening now?
I guess that's what we're doing now.
All right.
I want to apologize in advance to America if this continues, basically.
So, Mark, backstage before you asked, like, hey, how, with him being in California, Tub and I originally being from Florida, I'm now in North Carolina, close to where you grew up. But you asked, how did we get to know each other?
Yeah.
When I was running for city council, I came on this podcast as a guest, just trying to, get my message out. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but Marcus liked me so much after my unsuccessful run for office.
That's a load of malarkey.
He was like, would you like to come on the show as a permanent co-host or a permanent host? And I accepted. Well, Tub, when you were a candidate, did you come on the Black Powder podcast when you were a candidate?
I think I don't even know what. I don't know if I did it when I was a candidate or after. I think I did it after the race. I think they said they said, "Hey, let's bring this loser on. You need something to do with his life." And here I was.
You're telling me both of you ran for office, both of you came on this podcast, and neither of you won your elections?
Well, he didn't come on the.
All right, I gotta go.
We're libertarians. You didn't have to ask if we won or not. If we're libertarians.
I guess that makes
Mark,
sense.
I told you what they were backstage.
That is true.
In the pregame, these two. This is how DEI and affirmative action actually works. Because look how successful I've made these two.
Yeah.
Being integral parts of the Black Powder podcast, the only real libertarian podcast. We got to throw that in there. And I have uplifted these people out of abject irrelevant. Irrelativity? Is that the word?
Irrelevant.
I think
that is if it's not a word, it is now irrelativity.
Irrevelocity.
The more we let you speak, Marcus, the more you prove your point to how you are wrong. So we don't have to say anything. Just let them keep talking. They'll realize it's not like that.
Marcus is so relevant that he can't even say irrelevant.
That's right.
No, it is
his vocab.
It was way more profound than that. It was a higher purpose that I brought these people up to. And speaking of higher purpose,
there we go. Yes, please get to Mr. K.
Mark Kaye, for those that don't know you, can you explain who you are, what you do, and what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm from Jacksonville. I'm a podcaster. I used to be on the radio until I became way too entertaining and conservative for corporate media. And now I'm running for Congress against John Rutherford in Florida's 5th district because he's been there way too long and done way too little. For the people of District 5, he's done a lot for himself. So it's time that somebody says, hey, thanks for your service. Let's move on to the next.
Awesome.
That's great.
So, Eric and Tubb, since you guys are more relevant in this conversation, I'll let you lead as one of my acts of diversity, inclusion, and all kinds of other malarkey.
So, Marcus, I want you to see the 3 white guys and the brown guy. And inside of that, I want you to understand which one would really be diversity higher. It's not the 3 white guys, all right?
Well,
now,
Marcus is in the HR department.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I was going to say, Mark, for those that don't know that might be watching this, hopefully we got plenty of people from Jacksonville tuning in. They probably got to know you over the years. Like you said, you were a radio personality. Could you kind of give me a rundown of like when you moved to Jacksonville, how long you were on I think it was 95.1, the top 40 radio station, how long you did that, and then last you weren't you on like I think like political shows with WOKV, I think. Could you break that down for us real quick?
Yeah, so I got to Jacksonville in 2007. I was hired by WAP to host their morning show, and that was your traditional let's make prank phone calls and give away Justin Bieber tickets to teenage girls kind of radio show, which I did for a while. And, then I looked around, I was like 40, and I go, there's going to be a point in my life where it's really just creepy and weird for me to be talking about Justin Bieber and giving away tickets to teenage girls. And I was always a big fan of conservative talk radio. When I left the radio station, I'd get in my car, I'd listen to Rush Limbaugh, I'd listen to Neil Bortz, I'd listen to all those guys. Yeah. Okay, Neil Bortz. That's red meat for you. There you go. I'll just mention Neil. Fair tax. Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm a huge Neil Bortz fan. And so I would listen on the way, in my car. And I went to the guys at the radio station. I said, look, I eventually want to do this. Will you give me a show? And they were like, absolutely not. You talk to teenage girls. We're not going to let you talk about politics. It's going to destroy your brand. Exactly right. But I kept pleading with them, and I got a Sunday night show eventually. Then I got to know Herman Cain before he passed, and he had me co-host his show a couple days, and then I filled in for him. And then eventually they had no choice but to give me my own show. And when Rush Limbaugh passed away, the company I worked for put me on in 6 different markets that they own. So I automatically became a nationally syndicated radio talk show host, conservative talk show host, pretty much overnight. which was, sad circumstances, but also something that was an opportunity that we jumped at. And we did that really successfully for a very long time until, for whatever reason, whether it was money or George Soros or the fact that they had a moderate in Atlanta that they liked better than me, who was, hyper conservative, they let me go. And I said, great, I'll just do my own podcast from my own home and I'll be way more successful and I'll call all the shots. And I did that. And then earlier this year, I decided, you know what, in addition to being a podcaster, I think I'd like to run for Congress. So that's what I did.
Well, I think that's an impressive resume, especially to be able to stepping up and
you're the only one.
Challenging, an incumbent establishment Republican in Jacksonville, one that deserves to be, like you said, forced retired. Let's send him to the retirement home early. And that's your opponent, John Rutherford. I think it's important that you got some name recognition in Jacksonville. I think that's going to help out you tremendously. Speaking of, what is a website people could go to? We could get it up on the screen. Somebody comment this, and we'll try and get the comment up on the screen. What's your website people can go help give to your campaign if they so choose?
Yeah, right now we are just pimping the campaign. We're trying to get as much money as possible. It's markkayeforcongress.com, and that's Kaye is my last name, markkayeforcongress.com. And right now, all you're going to see is the donate link, because we are going against an establishment candidate. We are going against somebody who's been running for pretty much 10 years consistently. He's got a bankroll. The good news is he doesn't like to be seen. He doesn't like to go out in the community. He doesn't like to do town halls. In fact, he's done 0 town halls in 10 years. John Rutherford and I have done the same amount of town halls in the last 10 years, which is kind of interesting. He doesn't go on TV shows. He doesn't do interviews. He doesn't want people to know what he's doing. And of course, that's a big red flag. If your congressman doesn't want you to know what he's doing, it's because he's doing something that you probably wouldn't approve of. So he's not going to go out and do what I'm going to do, which is podcasts like this one, or advertise on Facebook, or, wear a hat with his name on it, or do live events, which I have one coming up, by the way, August 18th at Sneakers in Jacksonville Beach. It's 1 year to the primary. August 18th, 2026 is primary day. And as you guys know, in Duval County, it's a red county. It's a conservative county. Whoever wins the Republican primary is going to Congress. The Republican primary is almost election day. So we're focused really on just August 18th, 2026 at this point. And on August 18th, 2025, we're going to meet at Sneakers at the beach. We're going to put up the clock, and we're going to start the 365-day official countdown to John Rutherford Retirement Day. So it should be really exciting. But to answer your question again, markkayeforcongress.com is where you can go to help out. And like I said, we need all the help we can get.
Is that FOR or the number 4?
It's FOR.
Okay.
Yeah. Written out.
Yeah, we got the link posted here. I just copied and pasted. I don't.
That's great. That's good too. Yeah.
Thing. Yeah, and we'll post that throughout the podcast. I got to ask you something.
Yeah.
Dude is 72 years old.
Right.
What kind of people in their right mind at 72 years old, knowing we live in America, where on average you may have like 4 good ones left, and then things are going to start falling apart. Why would you stay in that type of stressful environment with all the bullshit, knowing damn well there could be a flippity flop midterm, and then you have to fight a harder battle at 72 years old? Why isn't he fishing somewhere in Lake Okeechobee, whatever the hell they call that, down there in Florida? What's going on?
Well, look, and here's the thing. Congress was his retirement. He was sheriff in Jacksonville for about a dozen years. And after you're sheriff in Jacksonville, after you're sheriff of Duval County, there's not a lot you do. So you run for Congress, and that became his retirement. He's not fighting in Congress. When Joe Biden was in office, he didn't fight at all. He just rolled over and he gave Joe Biden everything he wanted. He gave him hundreds of millions of dollars for Ukraine. He gave money to USAID. He voted, to fund the brand new FBI center just weeks after they raided Mar-a-Lago looking for those top secret documents. He's done everything to reach across the aisle, which just means he doesn't want to fight. He's not a fighter. So he doesn't care who's in control in Congress. The interesting thing about John Rutherford is he sits on 2 committees. The first committee is appropriations, and that's where they find out where all the money is going to be spent. Yeah. So if he wanted to invest in stocks, let's say, which he likes to do, he would know which stocks to purchase. Then he sits on the ethics committee. So if he were, let's just say, cited with 152 violations of the Stock Act, which, oops, he was, those ethics violations would be discarded because he sits on the ethics committee. So he doesn't sit on any other committee. He doesn't go to any other meetings. You never see him arguing with Jasmine Crockett or cross-examining some witness or, throwing some really interesting and important, document or I guess investigation into the record. He's just on appropriations and ethics, and he's chill. All he wants to do is stay there as long as possible so he has access to whatever he needs to make the rest of his life as comfortable as possible.
He must hate it at home. That's what I think it is. I'm gonna hand it to Tub.
I can't speak to that.
You did said something. You said things disappear, but we'll go back to that. We'll fly into that barn later on. Tub, I know you're over there writing stuff down.
Oh.
I got stuff, but it's like, are we? Is it my turn now? Or are we good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Feel free.
So listen, I got a number of things written down here. Let's just start by Rutherford, okay? Because listen, I've been in Jacksonville now for 25 years. Now I live just outside of your district. I'm up on the north side. I'm in Aaron Bean's district. So I'm aware of Rutherford and his lack of doing anything. And it's funny how right you are, because you never hear anything about him up there. Because you never hear him. You never hear anything. Like even locally, they don't ever have anything to say. Oh, here's what Rutherford did. You don't hear anything up there. All right, so. Let's start. I guess we'll start with him first, and then we'll get into you specifically. Okay. Now, in that, so right now, does it seem like he's even trying to run, or is he sitting in this position where he feels like he doesn't have to run against you? You're not a threat to him. Like, where's that shaking out at?
Well, so I don't know if you're familiar with Mara Macy, who ran against them the last time around. Mara, I helped her out with her last campaign. I did some events for her. She's amazing. I thought she had a great platform. She would have been a great candidate. John Rutherford, beat her twice because he's John Rutherford. He didn't campaign. He took whatever money. He ran some ads. They sent some mailers out, but she was out there knocking on doors, doing the thing that you need to do on the grassroots level. The fact of the matter was the name recognition wasn't there. That's where I think the upper hand. And that's one of the things that we discussed before I decided to run. I talked to her. She goes, you would be great because you have what I didn't have. You have name recognition. People know you. John Rutherford hasn't even really declared yet either. And that's something that people have pointed out to me. It took me, I was in this race for like 3 weeks, just hammering on John Rutherford. And someone came to me and said, has he even said he's running again? And officially, no, he hasn't, but he's not going to. I mean, there's no reason for him to make an announcement until after Christmas, somewhere around January or February, he'll decide. I believe he will. I think he's going to stick around till 2028. I believe he wants to see Donald Trump's term through fruition and help out any way he can. But if he doesn't run, then, that's something that we're going to prepare for as well. And the message is the same. If it's not John Rutherford, they're going to find some other career politician to put in there, and it's going to be the same exact kind of person. So if he runs, I think that at this point we have what it takes to beat him. We've got every year that he's been in Congress, he becomes less popular in the 5th district. Every time I go out, I meet some new person who has some story about John Rutherford and is excited to vote against him finally. So it's going to be, I do hope he runs that's what I'm prepping for. But we'll see.
Eric, I'm sorry. Sorry, Tub. I just need to ask this quick question. Is he getting Social Security and a congressional salary?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. I don't think you need that. I think you have to be retired, right, before you get Social Security. I don't know how
you get partial, right?
I don't know, because it seems like he's double dipping. There's no reason or explanation why he's still.
He has a strong argument to say, I'm not working. I mean, because really, you don't see him do anything. So his argument is he's working. What are you talking about?
I haven't done anything.
Let's be honest, by congressional standards, he's only middle-aged.
Exactly. By standards, he's got 15, 20 years still.
You got octogenarians who are still shuffling around. I mean, Nancy Pelosi showed up in ski poles the other day because she can't walk without him. So he's a spring chicken.
So, and I just wanted to point out, and I know you know this, Mark, but the audience knows, like John Rutherford's constitutional voting record, according to different, publications is like 48%. Now, I'm going to bring up a controversial congressperson, but one that libertarians like right now, Thomas Massey. His constitutional voting record is 97%. Rutherford's is worse than Liz Cheney's, which is 56%. He doesn't even have a 50% constitutional voting record. So with that being said, like, I'm assuming you're going to be committed to voting more constitutional than John Rutherford. That's a very low bar he's set. It should be really easy to do better than 48%. But who do you think your allies in Congress might be whenever you get elected and you're there? And do you plan on caucusing with Freedom Caucus or any of that?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I could just not show up for any votes and still be more constitutional than John Rutherford at this point. It is really interesting because I know a handful, when I started in conservative talk radio, I actually got to know a bunch of Congress people. And that's when I realized you really have to pay attention to their record. I know Aaron Bean really well, and he's at like a 96 or 97%. He's doing a really, really fantastic job. He's a funny guy. And he, if you ever go on a tour of the Capitol with him, it takes a while because he's got a lot to say. But he's doing okay. There's Kat Kamek I've gotten to know as well. She's she took Ted Yoho's place, and I love Ted Yoho because Ted Yoho, who represented District 3, said, "I'm going to serve 8 years." And after 8 years, they begged him to stay, and he said, "I pledged at the beginning of this to only serve 8 years." And even though they wanted him to stay, he dipped out, and I admire that, and I think that's important. Self-imposed term limits are almost as good as constitutionally imposed term limits. As far as who's in Congress right now, I don't know. I mean, there's some people I like the way that they vote. I like the way that they stand up for themselves. I like the things that they say. Freedom Caucus, yeah, probably if they'd have me, I would definitely caucus with them. I'm not a staunch libertarian. I believe that we do have to spend money in Congress to make the largest economy in the world run, but I also don't like what we're spending our money on. So I think that there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. Continuing resolutions, I would never vote for one of those because that's spending money for nothing. It would be interesting to see what happens there. But I definitely know who I would avoid. That's easy to figure out.
Oh, one of the ones I wrote up in the elevator with. That's what I was telling you about. Remember what I said? I wrote up in the elevator where it was Rashida Tlaib is who it was.
Oh.
Like, there's one to stay away from right there.
Well, that's just because you don't like black people, Tub.
She's not. Listen, I tolerate you. You're almost black.
I am. I like to consider myself paper sack brown.
Yeah, Marcus, I like black people, so.
I know you do, and when I was researching you, I think they did you dirty for that AI photo. That shit was not. That was. I was like, really? I was like, you people are soft. If you think any black person looked at it, I was like, man, fuck that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Any black person said like, I don't mess with this guy at all. That was just stupid.
It was so funny I got fired from the radio station on February 28th. And that article,
Black History Month.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right at the end of Black History Month. Now that I realize it. And then like a week later, the article from the BBC about that photo came out, and all these news outlets started reporting that I got fired because of that. So I started calling them up and threatening them, and I was like, "You got to get your facts straight, whatever." And they all had to go back and they had to retract that I wasn't fired for that reason because the timeline didn't work out. But it just goes to show how many of these news organizations, especially on a local level, just don't research at all. They make up their own narrative. You can't trust anybody.
Can't trust it. Public enemy. Talk about that.
So what do we got to get from Marcus to officially endorse Mark Kaye as a black man so that people know that he likes black people?
Yeah.
Marcus, what do we need?
That's it. It's money. Right. Money talks.
Go ahead, say it right now. I'm Marcus Matthews, and I endorse Mark Kaye for now.
I can't do that just yet.
That's okay.
I want to understand the type of spices he uses to season his food before I go that, because I have a reputation to maintain myself.
That's okay. So, I can just generate an AI photo of you endorsing me. So,
well, that's true. How about it?
That's-
Hey,
All Marcus is an AI. He doesn't even really exist.
yeah, he's our avatar.
I guess that's better than an AH, so I'll
Wait,
just go with that.
Yeah, or an AA. What kind of spices do I need? I use Cholula. Is that what you were talking about? Like Hillary Clinton with the hot sauce there
I
first?
mean, like you have to pre-season the meat before you cook it, and this is one of the things that
Seasoning meat is the one thing Marcus thinks he has that makes him black. And so he has to keep reminding us. He'll send us pictures in our group text. Hey, look up seasoning meat. Okay, great, dude. You're black. We know you're black.
So the vast majority of you
Tony
people
Satcheries.
here, excuse me, sir. The vast majority of you people here are of Anglo-Saxon descent. You literally built empires on the spice trade, and then you turn your back on your ancestors and don't even season your meat. How dare you, sir, question me in such a manner? How dare you?
Mr. K, this is the part of the program where we smile and nod at him because at least once every podcast he gives us a history lesson to show that he's an educated black man. And so we let him do it, and he finds a way to tie it back to white man's bad, and then here we are, and then we move on.
Also, who's not seasoning their meat? Is that like a thing?
It's a Marcus thing.
You have to show me anything that
I don't cook at all. So you're right. I season none of my meat. None of it.
Spreading mayonnaise.
Can I do things? Can I ask some questions that might actually apply to the guest?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Instead of guest and what he does with his meats. Thank you. All right. So now, so here's the thing. So these are gonna be like, hopefully like more like real questions, not what Marcus has going on. So, do you see yourself as just a Trump guy, or do you find places where you kind of maybe split off from Trump a little bit?
Well, this week with the Epstein files, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was like, you know what? It's interesting. I loved Donald Trump, the candidate, of course, and I love America First and the agenda. And it's interesting to see now. And a lot of it is, who he surrounds himself with, his cabinet, his advisors, those kinds of things. And the more you delve into politics, the more stories you hear, and the more you learn about, who's making decisions here and there. But I look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has always supported Donald Trump, but she was the first one to yell about the bombing in Iran. She was coming out about the Epstein. She's like, Pam Bondi, Pam Schmondi. We know there's an Epstein list. We're not buying any of this stuff, and we don't know what deals were made. We don't know whose vote Donald Trump needed to get his one big beautiful bill passed. So he buried the files. At least that's my thought process. That's my conspiracy theory about it. But no, I mean, I think everything he ran on, I think everything that he wants for America is great. I think from an agenda standpoint, he's doing what he promised. It's these other issues that pop up like Epstein and a couple of others that kind of question, where's that 100% Donald Trump America First, candidate now that he's back in office. But I think a lot of that is his cabinet. And I think a lot of that is his advisors too. Like I said before, Congress is probably it's the easiest job, or it should be the easiest job that you can get elected to. The hard jobs are city council. The hardest job is school board. Those are also the most important jobs that anybody can run for. If you're not paying attention to who your city council person is or who your school board member is, you probably shouldn't be voting for anything. But so much goes into these national elections. The congressman's job is just basically to go there and protect the people back home from the federal government. But what happens is these people go to Washington and they protect the federal government from the people back home. And really, if any bill comes to the table, or if anything comes to the table, it's either more of your tax dollars that they're going to spend, or more regulations that they're going to put on you. So really, your job as a congressman is to go in there and just vote no for everything, unless they give you a really, really great reason to vote yes. And I think that's where I differ, from a lot of other people.
Where would you have been if you were up there now? Would you have voted for the one big beautiful bill?
Yeah, in the end, I would have. I mean, I think that, after all the hubbub and all the back and forth, I mean, like I said, I'm not a libertarian. I'm not one of those people that's like, we can't spend any money. We can't have any debt. I mean, I have a business. You can't run a business without debt. You have to spend money. But if you spend money on something that's going to make money in return, that's great. If you spend money on something stupid, that's bad. And we've gone in, we've had Republican Congresses, like majority Republican Congresses, not this current one, but the last one under Mike Johnson, vote for multiple continuing resolutions to keep the government open, which means they're spending trillions of dollars and getting absolutely nothing in return. I would be a hard no on any continuing resolution. There should be a balanced budget amendment. There should be no continuing resolution. The one big beautiful bill, yeah, it was big. Yeah, it was expensive, but we got a lot of stuff. And tax cuts is huge. And anybody who argues against tax cuts, I mean, you can't be a conservative. Taxation is theft. That's what I hear every single day. That's what I believe. I don't want to pay more taxes. And I was a waiter, and if you're not taxing tips and you're not taxing overtime, and even for a few years, if you're making the tax cuts that we have now permanent, that's really important, because otherwise it's Bidenomics all over again, and we can't stomach that.
So Marcus, real quick, and Tubbs, sorry to interrupt, but Mark, you name dropped Mike Johnson. I'd like to know, would you have voted for him as speaker? And unless hindsight, let's pretend you know what you know now. Would you have voted for Mike Johnson as speaker? No. Yeah. What about not knowing? Like, if you put yourself in the shoes of the people that did vote for Mike Johnson when they voted for him as speaker, did you know at that time they voted for him that you'd be running for Congress? Do you think you would have been convinced to vote for him, or no? Was it a hard no from the beginning? Well, it's funny, because the reason I'm running for Congress is because of that particular vote. I was on the radio, and Matt Gaetz went in and he kicked out Kevin McCarthy, which I thought was brilliant. And then Jim Jordan became the front runner, which I thought was also brilliant. I love Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, I thought, would have been a great Speaker of the House. And we were on the show and we were talking about Jim Jordan, and people were calling up and they wanted Jim Jordan. And the first 6 or 7 votes, Jim Jordan was the front runner. But guess who wasn't voting for Jim Jordan? John Rutherford from the 5th District of Florida. He was voting for Steve Scalise. And everybody was calling my show saying, why is Rutherford voting for Steve Scalise? People were calling his office. They were sending him emails. They were demanding Jim Jordan. They're like, we want Jim Jordan as speaker. He's the guy. Donald Trump, who endorsed John Rutherford, said, I want Jim Jordan to be the Speaker of the House. And Rutherford was voting for Steve Scalise. So we called him up and I said, would you come on the show? And I was shocked because, again, this is a guy who doesn't ever do any media. He came on the show and we grilled him about the vote. And he said to me, if I vote for Jim Jordan, then Matt Gaetz wins. And I thought to myself, what the hell does that have to do with that? That's not your job isn't to keep Matt Gaetz from winning. Your job is to represent the people in Florida's 5th District. It's not a schoolyard battle. He was in kindergarten again, and he was mad because he didn't like Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz didn't like him. So he wasn't going to vote for Matt Gaetz as candidate. And that's why that's when I went back and started really studying John Rutherford's record. And that's why we ended up with Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson wasn't even a thought until the 6th or 7th vote.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere. He was not on anybody's card to have Mike Johnson up in there.
Correct. And it was Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise. Who was the other one they had up there who's no longer, I think one of them who's no longer, dipped out, and he's no longer in Congress anymore because he couldn't take it. And Mike Johnson was like the runner-up of the runner-up. And that's what they all decided on. So no, I never would have voted for Mike Johnson.
So you jogged a memory for me, because I remember Rutherford, because that's one of my good friends' name. He moved to North Carolina too from California, which is a smart move. I'm not giving Eric any credence or credit for that move. But
I didn't move from California, but yeah.
But now I remember who Rutherford was, because I follow politics extremely closely, and especially the votes, to see who's going to be the next guy.
Yeah.
Only thing I will ever give a Democrat credit for is when Nancy Pelosi was speaker, she had like a 2 or 3 vote majority, and there was no squeaky wheels in that, because she had her monkeys trained.
Yep.
I said that. And they did not swerve from the line or the protocol. Republicans, and I say this about the Supreme Court, because there are so-called, conservative justices and liberal justices. Only ones that will go one way or another are the conservative ones, based on whatever open-mindedness they have. Liberal justices, liberal politicians will not stray away from, even when something is right.
Mm-hmm.
And not all conservatives do that either. But there are conservatives that will buck the system, so to speak. And that's where you have to give respect to them over liberals. That's the extent to which I will ever lift a Republican over a Democrat. So congratulations, you got that out of me. I want to talk to one thing about the Epstein thing. I think it hurt the brand.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I don't think you're going to see anybody who was with a brand that got hurt will say that Democrats would have been a better option,
Right,
than what they got here. And that's one thing I find disheartening about our political system, is that even though the party that you choose did
sorry,
the
they're doing a sound check down the hall, and apparently they sorry about that.
The party that did the wrong thing still won't be held accountable. That's where I have a problem with the duopoly, so to speak.
Well, I think in the instance of Epstein, it wasn't. It was both parties. I mean, there's.
Oh, absolutely, yes. But
There's,
this was an opportunity to rectify the situation from the people who have been talking about it the most over the last 4.5 years.
yeah, and the thing about Donald Trump being, I mean, he's a lame. He's like the least lame duck president we've ever had. Lame duck president we've ever had. He's not running again, so he, if he ticks off his base a little bit here and there, it's okay. Yeah, it'll hurt his brand a little bit, but at the same time, he doesn't need their votes coming up in the next couple of years, at least not for his campaign. And I really think what happened with the Epstein files, because if he were in them the way that Elon's bragging about or anything else, we would have known about it years ago. I truly believe that. I think what happened was Republicans who stood to, and again, I have no inside information about this. This is just, I think about this more than most people. This is what I came up with, because it was 48 hours after the One Big Beautiful Bill was passed. And I think what happened was there were Republicans in the Senate who held out their votes, or knowing how important this was to President Donald Trump, held out their votes and said, I will only vote yes if you keep my legacy clean, if you end this Epstein thing, if you do whatever you have to do to bury this. There's a lot of Republicans who are old, who've been around a long time, who don't like Donald Trump and voted for this bill, I thought, surprisingly, and who are also on the way out. And this could be their last ditch effort to try to save their legacy. That's my theory that I came up with. And I think Donald Trump, art of the deal, said, okay, I'm not going to get everything I want. I've got to give a little bit. And he maybe looked at the Epstein files as something that he could play with. I think he maybe underestimated the backlash it would get. And I also don't think his answer to that media person in the cabinet meeting, I don't think that was a good answer at all.
Dave Chappelle,
yeah.
Hey, can you answer this from you? I mean, this is from Freedom Uncut, one of our friends of the show. We love these guys. Do you think Trump's relationship with Israel hurt the Republicans in 2026?
I don't think so. It didn't hurt him in 2024. I mean, he's had the Donald Trump Square in Jerusalem since he was his first term. I mean, he moved the embassy back to. I mean, Donald Trump and Israel go hand in hand, and they always have been. I don't think it would hurt. It might hurt an individual Republican, maybe in a certain district, but overall, I don't think the party's gonna suffer at all. I think the opposite is going to happen. I think that you're not going to have Republicans who are as fed up with maybe this tight relationship and this alliance with Israel as you are going to have Democrats who are fed up with folks like Mamdani and Rashida Tlaib and all these other pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas people. New York City has the largest Jewish population outside of Jerusalem. And they've got Zoran Mamdani, who's going to be their mayor. There's absolutely no way those people are going to vote for Democrats in the future if that happens. So I don't think personally that's as big an issue as some people maybe make it out to be in 2026.
Okay, so first I need to clear something up.
Yeah.
So there are some of us libertarians who aren't so whacked out. I want to make that very clear. Like for example, so like I always explained it, I'm not the one that runs around talking about, like when I was running, I never once said end the Fed and did all of those things. I was like, I fully understand that we have to have certain services to make government work, to have society work. In fact, I caught a certain level of heat from libertarians because like here in Jacksonville, there are two things that I say that's great and why I like them. We have a great library system and we have an amazing park system. And I always tell everybody, I always like the funding for those things because everybody can use them. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you get somebody, they take that money but anybody can go. So I want to point out that there are some of us libertarians who aren't completely crazy and we kind of understand. So I always tell everybody there's some like me that are like constitutionalists, limited government libertarians. Now, with that, let me ask you a couple questions again.
Yeah.
So, with the bombing in Iran, first we'll ask, would you, if it, let's ask it this way first. Should he have gone to Congress? And at what point should a president go to Congress before launching bomb missiles?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the scope of that attack, I think it's pretty clear cut that that wasn't an attack that required congressional approval. I mean, we've got, he did go, he made everyone aware. I think there's 60 days within the end of the attack, he's got to make notice to Congress, or 48 hours, I think, something like that. I mean, he told all the leaders, hey, we're going to do this in like an hour. And I think that when you look at our history, that's well within his purview as commander in chief, and that's well within his decision-making ability. If you're committing ground troops for a large scale attack that is going to be sustained for weeks or months, that would require a declaration of war by Congress. In this particular instance, I mean, this was a 20-minute bombing raid. And I mean, I'm 50, and it seemed like during the Bush years, even the Reagan years, even the Obama years, even the Clinton years, this kind of thing happened all the time.
All the time.
Nobody
keep going back, by the way. Bush, Reagan, Carter, Nixon. You can keep going.
Yeah, they've all done it.
They've all done it over and over again. Yeah.
Kennedy, Johnson.
But
all right, so,
and I'm not trying to cut Mark off.
Yeah.
I do think there's something, though, in the War Powers Act that it has to be to stop an imminent threat. So I think that's the argument. Like how I think, I got to go read up on my the War Powers Act and Supreme Court rulings and stuff like that. But it depends on how close they were to it being an imminent threat. I don't know if it was or not. But and I get your point. I think they gave enough of a warning in time. I don't know that there were any lives lost, but I would have liked to have seen a congressional authorization. Not necessarily, doesn't necessarily have to be a declaration of war, but,
right?
Yeah, and you got the authorization, the use of military force is in there, but a lot of times that's abused. So that's where I think I feel like the question is kind of like we need more information, maybe. But you're exactly right, all of y'all, that historically that power has been abused. I think that's the argument. That the executive branch has abused that power over time.
Can I say this before Mark comes in? There is no imminent threat to the United States of America as the most powerful. The United States has currently 11 aircraft carriers. Each aircraft carrier has more fighters on it than 80% of the world's air forces, times 11. I don't believe there is an imminent threat from anybody that is not suicidal, because the United States can flatten anybody within 72 hours. Anybody on the face of this earth. And so this mega complex of defense contractors and everybody else who is constantly beating China doesn't want to go to war with America, because China's 80-something% of China's economy comes this way. North Korea, we could turn South Korea into an island. They're not a threat. Iran, they can't shoot missiles at us, but Iran is roughly 2.5 times the size of Texas, which is California. Iraq is about the same size as California. Iran is about 2-3 times bigger than that. 92 million people. They will get flattened. The United States has pre-positioned. The United States can literally invade them from two fronts. This war footing that we're on does not serve any purpose at the moment. And I'm sorry, because this is very passionate to me.
Yeah.
Mark.
Well, I will just say the War Powers Act doesn't say an imminent threat to the United States of America. Yeah. It just says an imminent threat, period. So that could be an imminent threat to Israel. It could be an imminent threat to Saudi Arabia. It could be an imminent threat to humanity. I mean, those are all of the things. And that's the lawyer. That's why the lawyer is open-ended. They're all going to argue it one way or another. But imminent threat is so they could be it could be like they're shooting bottle rockets at you, and they could put an eye out like Ralphie in A Christmas Story. You're like, well, that's an imminent threat to my vision, so we're going to bomb their nuclear facilities. It's so vague for that specific purpose. Yes, the United States of America is not really technically threatened by anyone, but at the same time, do we want anyone else getting anywhere closer to having a nuclear weapon? I mean, we didn't want North Korea to have it. I'm pretty sure we didn't want Pakistan to have it either. And we want to keep it at 9 nations or 10 if you're one of those people that believes South Africa also has them, which I've heard. That's yeah. Okay, so 10 for Marcus, 9.
And
yeah.
Doesn't Israel have some that are not reported or not accounted for?
Not reported. Yeah.
Not reported.
Well, then how do we?
But I'm not disputing your fact, but to your point, you said we didn't want North Korea to have them. They have them. We didn't want Pakistan to have them. They have them. We didn't want India to have them. They have them. Kennedy didn't want Israel to have them. They have them.
And then Kennedy got.
Yeah. We didn't have to talk about that part.
That's neither here nor there. What do you got?
We're going deep down the conspiracy theory.
Oh, yeah. Listen, Mark, at some point, you just let him go.
I was like, wait a minute. We just linked the bombing in Iran to the Kennedy assassination. It's like 6 years of Kevin Bacon. It's amazing. That's
welcome to the Black Powder Podcast. There we are. Welcome in.
Yeah. What's funny is Marcus says he hates conspiracy theories, but
I do.
I think he
jumps
likes
right in on them.
But he likes
and then makes
connecting
his
dots,
own up.
you know?
Those are conspiracy theories. The reason I don't like conspiracy theories is because it doesn't give credence to facts. And there's a lot of facts. Like, people like to use the Tuskegee experiment as a conspiracy theory. That was not a conspiracy theory. It freaking happened. You know, MK Ultra. It freaking happened. All these things that people say, oh, that was the it wasn't. It happened. And that's where I get upset with people turning everything into a conspiracy theory, because there's actual facts to the facts of everything.
Yeah, to me, that's what makes a good conspiracy theory, is there has to hold some water. Like, sometimes these stuff that people come up with, like, that's absurd. But if you can, you're like, wait a minute. Okay, like when you said one earlier, Mark, when you mentioned about the client list. And so I'm like, all right, hang on. So what you're saying, it seems like that might have gotten buried because we're trying to keep everybody happy inside of this one. We're going to let this one. And I go, that makes sense. That holds water. There's something to that one. So that when you say that one, I go, all right, I can see that. Like when you're saying that, I'm like, all right, yeah, I can see where that goes. That makes sense because there's something to weigh it down rather than just this randomness that sometimes people come up with. Now, let me ask you a question though. So what do you believe the role of a congressman truly is? And the reason why I ask this is because, they get up there, they tend to forget about home. Like home no longer. Right. It's like their job is to basically be in DC, get invited to the right parties, hang out with the right people, make some money on the side, whatever that is, and they seem to forget about home. So what do you think for you would be, hey, let me get up there, do what I got to do. You got to play the DC game. I get that. But what is your purpose to represent back home?
Well, I don't want, I lived in DC for a while. I would not, I'm one of those, let's get on the plane Thursday night and spend all time at home and get back Monday morning. The fact of the matter is, and it's like I said earlier, you have one job. You're supposed to be representing this group of people who put you in office. And you're right. They don't do that. They go up there, they get invited to parties. They go to these, they get invited on expeditions paid for by God knows who. I think John Rutherford went to Turkey for like 2 weeks. I don't even know who paid for it, but I know it wasn't him. And there, all these things happen where you just forget why you're there and you realize this is my golden ticket. But it's really easy. You need to look at all the legislation and say, is this going to hurt the people that put me here? And if it's spending money on something ridiculous, if it's USAID funding, which we now know was just a slush fund for the worst, just the worst opportunities around the world, then you vote no. That's the thing. You look at it, it's like simple. It's a good bill or it's a bad bill. If it's good, you vote yes. If it's bad, you vote no. And it's not a good bill or bad bill for you. Is it a good bill or a bad bill for whoever's back home? But it all starts at the beginning when you get super PACs and you get this money. The people that are giving you money to get elected are doing it not because they like you, because they want you to vote for them. Again, not for the people back home. So I'm all about keeping the dark money out of politics. I'm selling hats to make money. You get up there and you just think and being a resident too is important. I live in the district. A lot of people that are in Congress, they carpet bag and they go in, and we have a new congressman from Florida who doesn't even live in his district. And I think that's important because I know that if my taxes go up, or I know that if we can get rid of property tax on a national level, that'd be great for me. I know that if we can abolish the Department of Education, that would be great for my kids, back in Florida, that kind of stuff. So, I think that's really what it is. It's just voting no on bad bills and yes on good bills, as simply stupid as that sounds.
So let me ask you, it's somewhat local. Local for us. We'll understand this. So, here in town, we have the Emerald Trail that they want to push all the way through town and all that they want to do. And they had some funding. There was supposed to be federal funding towards it. And they just lost the federal funding to finish off the Emerald Trail here in Jacksonville. And listen, Aaron Bean's catching a lot of heat locally. Like, hey, why didn't he get the money secured down to here? Do you think that should be part of their role, something similar? And do you have things in your district which you would say, hey, I'm going to go up and I'm going to fight to basically claw some of our own money back again? Because in all honesty, it's a horrible system that we have, that we take all of our money here, send it all up to there so that we can beg and plead to get a fraction of it back again. So are there things in your district specifically where you go, hey, I'm going to go up there. This is what I know we need in the district, and I'm going to see if I can't claw some of our own money back again? What would that be?
Well, in St. Johns County, with the growth around the Nocatee area, it's just there's traffic issues all the time. There's traffic safety issues. There's road work issues. There's, they need crosswalks here. There's issues with the golf carts. There's all kinds of, really any kind of road enhancement. They need $10 million in St. Johns County for part of the roads by the Nocatee Expressway. So all of that is stuff that's federal funding that needs to come into the county. Into both of them, because District 5 has two counties, Duval and St. John's. That's money that, John Rutherford, he doesn't go and get. He waits until it's given to him. The flip side of that, though, is oftentimes when you go in and you want to get that money, you've got to give something in return. I think that with the Donald Trump administration, I think that it's really easy. Someone like Sean Duffy, for example, the transportation secretary, I feel like that's somebody you could actually have a relationship with, and you could go and explain yourself, and you could say, this is why this is important. Donald Trump is also a resident of Florida, and I think that he has a very soft spot in his heart. These are all great things that any congressman from Florida could use, and many do. I'm pretty sure Byron Donalds is up there at the White House all the time, buddy with the Trumps, getting everything that he needs for Naples. And I'm pretty sure that Kat Kammick's doing the same thing for Ocala. John Rutherford doesn't do it's not that he's not going to the parties and schmoozing the right people. He doesn't have relationships with anybody to get those kinds of things back home. Now, do I want him going out there and selling out and voting on bad bills or sending $100 billion to Ukraine so we can get 10 million for St. Johns County? Absolutely not. But it doesn't need to be that drastic if you go out and do the work and prove that there's a need here in the state of Florida. He's just not using the resources. There's never been a better time to represent Florida because everyone in Washington, D.C. is from Florida. Susie Wiles lives in my district. John Rutherford could go to her at any time and say, your neighbors need 10 million for a road. Give it to them. I don't think he does that. He may be scared of her, but I don't know. He doesn't do that.
What are you hearing is the biggest complaint against him? Because, like I said, I'm right outside. Because you go up into the beaches, correct? You go up that far. And how far?
It's a big district, sure.
How far west do you come?
All the way to the St. Johns River. We split with Aaron Bean. So if you get to the bridge, over the bridge, and downtown by Moncrief and that kind of thing, that's all Aaron Bean. So we go from the ocean to the river. I almost said from the river to the sea.
Oh yeah, don't say don't do it.
I'm not going to say that. Yeah.
So what are you hearing is the biggest complaint from? Now listen, because I know we all, because like the four of us sitting here, we probably watch politics and get more involved than we probably should. In all honesty, it kind of consumes us sometimes. And you're probably, sure, I know you're the same way. So, but you're probably learning, especially as you run. It is different than hosting a show, because with a show, it's, hey, I'm Mark Kaye and I got great ideas, and here they are. Whereas you start hitting the street, the things that they're concerned about aren't necessarily the things that you're concerned about. And so once you've gotten out there, what are you hearing? You're like, whoa, wait a minute, I wasn't thinking of that, but whoa, I'm glad you're saying that.
No, I'll tell you the biggest problem. The biggest problem I'm realizing is people don't realize what the problem is. And Eric hit on it. This guy has the worst voting record. He votes with Democrats more than he does Republicans. He's voted for things that people in Jacksonville would be furious about. He voted for taxpayer dollars to go to transgender surgeries for military men and women. I don't want my taxpayer dollars going for that. He's also supposedly a Catholic, and he's voting for that kind of stuff. So there are issues, but nobody knows about them. So when I go out, people at the REC meetings, people who are involved politically, people who watch this podcast or watch other podcasts, people like you guys, they know his voting record better than I do, probably better than he does. And they know why it's time for him to go and he needs to be replaced with somebody more constitutionally conservative. They get it. It's the other tens of thousands of voters who don't follow politics who go, well, you know, John Rutherford, my brother needed a VA loan and he helped him out with that. So he seems like a good guy. You know, my sister-in-law needed a passport in 2 weeks and he got her one. And I'm like, well, that's his job, number one. So he's just doing his job, but you don't know all the other stuff that he's doing that actually harms you and your sister-in-law and your brother who got the VA loan, because it's never publicized and he never talked about it. And, you know, very few people who've ever run against him have been able to get that message out there. So that's the real issue. It's almost him being quiet and being out of the public eye also makes it easier for him to hide these horrible votes. So that's why I've got to be loud and obnoxious and rash and talk about it.
Excuse me, Tub. I need to ask this question. You said he was in Turkey for 2 weeks or 2 months?
2 weeks.
I thought it was 2 weeks. Was it 2 months?
He was in Turkey.
Weeks.
Did he get hair plugs when he came back? Did his hair look thicker?
I'm glad.
Maybe his mustache. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm glad Marcus interrupted Tubbs for hair plugs.
For that.
Hey, Marcus, can you?
I'm telling you, that needs to be a deciding factor if somebody's going to.
Who's paying for your hair plugs? That's what we're doing.
What does he choose in his meat is the question.
I can look at him, 72 years old. I'm pretty sure mayonnaise and salt are spicy. So let's not even go there.
Mark, you brought it up this time. This is your fault. Mark.
I'm gonna hold on before I pass this off to Eric. Tubbs says something about streets, being from the streets. I wanted to ask Mark Kaye, do you think Tubb is from the streets?
Yeah, cul-de-sac. He looks like he's from the cul-de-sac. Yeah.
Actually, here's what's funny. Of us sitting here, I'm the only one who was raised in the projects.
Yeah, Tubbs is
like, for real. I didn't know. And if I said, hey, one of us is raised in the projects, we're all going to go, oh, poor Marcus, but he's doing well for himself.
No, my parents did very well. Both my parents had college degrees, did very well.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you are whiter than I am. My parents were aspiring to be your black parents. Let's just make that very clear.
They were immigrants, and accordingly, under the 14th Amendment, you shouldn't even be a citizen of the United States. So we're not going to get into that. If you're looking for somebody,
Eric, I got questions for Mr. K, but how do we mute Marcus? How do we mute Marcus? Because
I'm going to need the keys to this operation.
What you're saying, because of John Rutherford. So when Eric and I were running as libertarians, we spent a lot of our time trying to explain to everybody who libertarians are, what we do, what we believe in. And it seems like you're having a similar fight. You've got to go and explain to everybody what John Rutherford is not doing for them. So you've got to make them aware of what he is and is not doing, because they don't know. People don't pay attention, and he's living off of that. So
yeah, well, yes, but
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I'm sorry.
I don't know what they're doing either, Mark. Don't worry about it. I have no idea.
All right, hey, could you reframe the question, please?
Yes. I think Mark got the question. I'm just sorry we interrupted him during his answer.
Yeah, hair plugs.
No. Look, the good news is that it's a primary. And in the primary, really only the super voters vote. And they are these people that are probably more, that are probably more in tune with it. So it's just, I got to go out there and knock on doors and be loud. I also, getting voters that don't usually vote in the primary is also something that we're looking to do too. So there is a way to combat it. But yeah, it is very similar to the libertarian cause, getting people to understand not what it is per se, but why this guy isn't who you think he is.
Do you think it's winnable? Like realistically?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's 100%.
Okay.
I mean, it's 100%.
Did I mute myself? Like what happened? So you think he can be beat? Okay. Now, what is the difference?
I do. I think.
Go ahead.
I think he can be beat for a couple of reasons. Again, when I worked with Mara in her campaign, I mean, she already was reaching out to people. She had the support of St. Johns County, because again, District 5 has two counties, Duval and St. Johns County, and St. Johns County endorsed her over John Rutherford. That was something that has now led the REC to no longer allow primary endorsements. But that was key. It showed that there was a shift. She just didn't have that name recognition to push over the hump. And as soon as I announced I was running, I mean, I have 1 million people on Facebook. I have a daily podcast. I can do an event, and I can pack the place. I go into the REC and people know me because I've been speaking there for years. It's something that I think is just the extra little spice that we can use. Push. Plus, I'm also going to be doing the door knocking. I'm also going to have the Facebook ads running. I'm also going to have the volunteers out there handing out palm cards. We're also going to do all these kinds of, these kinds of, signage and whatnot. But the key is, as soon as and this is something that's really interesting too, because I started this offhandedly in January. I was doing my podcast. Something came up with John Rutherford. I was annoyed with some other new vote or some other thing he said. And I offhandedly said, you know what? I should just run against this guy. And that one comment resonated with 2 or 3 people who reached out to me, 4 or 5 people. It started to become a thing, and people started volunteering before I even decided that I was going to run. And the next thing I knew, I was in Mara Macy's kitchen with her husband and a couple of her friends, and we were plotting it out. And ever since I threw my hat in the ring and said, I'm running, it's been nothing but positivity, people coming together, people saying, this is it. This guy needs to go. We can beat him, and we will help you in any way, shape, or form, because these people know that they're not represented. They see it for 10 years now. They have not had the representation that they demand. And so they're ready for a change. And because I've been on the radio, because I've had that conservative talk base, they know who I am. They know what I think. They know. I mean, I'm on Twitter every single day. Eric will tell you, I'm on Twitter every single day, and I'm saying stuff, and most people agree with it. Some people don't, but there's no telling, or there's no question about who I am. And they look at me and go, that's who we want in Congress, not the guy that we thought was one person, but turns out is someone totally different.
And if we can give a bit of a shout out to the Macy's. Eric and I are very familiar with them. They did a lot of help with Eric here locally, because they were tired of the establishment Freeman running in city council. And so they helped him a lot. And the next time you talk to Ted, if you could tell him, because he keeps texting me, Tub, you going to run? Tub, you going to run? Tub, you going to run? And so I'm going to tell you right now, like you mentioned, it's nice that we have somebody on here who can go, yeah, we know the Macy's. Because I think that they do a lot of low key work, but they make things happen. And so I think in all honesty, she may have helped pave the way for you. That maybe she started showing people, hey, this is not the guy you want, And so she kind of softened the ground for you, basically.
Loosen the jar, yeah.
Yep.
They're both. They're both great people. I mean, Ted knows everything about what's going on in Jacksonville and Washington, D.C. He's a great asset to anybody. If anyone's running for office in Florida, definitely reach out to him because he knows it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Ted Macy and Mara Macy on X. And I'm surprised they're not in the comments. They knew we were going to be live. But they're busy people. So speaking of talking about local Jacksonville politics and Susie Wiles, I don't know if you want to open that can of worms right here, right now, but is that an uphill battle? Do you know anyone that could get in her ear? Because we all know she does Trump's endorsements, right? I think that's public knowledge, at least to people in Jacksonville. How much do we need her to avoid helping out Rutherford this time? And I say her because it's not Trump doing it; it's her.
Well, it's funny. So I went up to DC for the military parade, and I was flying back early, like Sunday morning, whatever. I get on the plane and I'm putting my bag up, and then from the seat behind me, I hear Mark Kaye, and I look down and it's Katie Wiles, who is Susie Wiles' daughter. And I was like, oh, and she said, she looks at me, she goes, congratulations. I heard you're running. And I said, I am. She goes, is there anything I can do to help? And I said, can you get me a Donald Trump endorsement? And she kind of laughed. So I go, okay, how about $1 million? I mean, you asked, so here's what I need: $1 million cash and Donald Trump's endorsement. Look, Donald Trump's endorsement, I'm not saying I don't want it. 100% I would want it, and I probably deserve it more than John Rutherford. But you're right, Donald Trump's endorsement, I mean, he's busy. He's he's not endorsing 220 different candidates. He's got people that are doing it, and they decide for whatever reason. He's endorsed John Rutherford in the past. Does that mean that he's going to endorse John Rutherford in the future? Probably, but not also, the other thing about Donald Trump's endorsements is he doesn't like to endorse somebody who doesn't win. He likes to endorse the winner. I mean, we all would. And so I think that if I can get some momentum, if the polls start coming out in late January, early February, if I can get some momentum, if I can make a showing in the polls, if we can raise enough money, and if people can log onto the FEC website and say, wow, Mark Kaye is competitive, he's even with John Rutherford in the polls, and he's gaining ground, and John Rutherford is not, and he's 72, and people are starting to realize he's more of a Democrat than a Republican, then maybe
hair plugs from Turkey.
Hair plugs from
right. Don't forget about the hair plugs.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they would say, hey, we want to back the winner, and this isn't the guy. I'm not counting on it. I don't count on big endorsements like that. I just want votes. I would take it. But look, there are candidates who win and don't have Donald Trump's endorsement. There are candidates who have Donald Trump's endorsement who have no business winning.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm not
going to name any names, but there are some
Randy, not so fine.
I'm just saying, I'll take it if it comes, but I'm not going after it.
All right, I know we're getting close. Well, we're getting close to my time, I guess. So let me ask you one question, and then do what y'all do. You mentioned how self-imposed term limits are often better because that's the only way we're going to get them, probably. Are you willing to say, yes, I'll serve X amount of years, and I'm out?
Yeah, my wife has already told me you're maxed out at this many years. Look, I'm going in there. I'm not going in there saying term limits are impossible. I interviewed one of my first big interviews in the political realm. Ron DeSantis was still in District 6. I had him on my show, and we talked about term limits because he and Ted Cruz introduced the term limit agenda in Donald Trump's first term, and Donald Trump endorsed it, and it was moving forward. But then the impeachment happened, and that was it. And then Ron DeSantis left to go run for governor, and we never heard about it again. But that is doable. I believe it's doable, and I believe it's necessary. And I would make that my not my pet project, but one of my goals. Because we just talked about, we joked about the octogenarians and even John Rutherford, who's 72. What are these people doing there? What kind of corruption exists when you've been in the same job for 40 years? I would fight for term limits 100%. I would limit myself as like Ted Yoho did. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I want to go and I want to get things done quickly. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life in Washington, D.C. I want to fix the stuff that I can fix and then come back and hand it off to the next guy. So 100%, I would be all about self-imposed term limits. And I would, all the time that I'm in D.C., I would work to make sure that they become mandatory because I believe that's important.
What would yours be? Like you said Ted from the start was 8 years and I'm out. What would your number be?
I mean, 8 years would be great. I know that in the amendment, it was like 6 years. It was 3 terms for Congress and I think 2 for Senate. 6 years is good. But here's the thing. Like if I say, I'll dip out in 6 years, but in 6 years, we're going to vote on term limits in the next Congress, I might stick around for one more term, but 8 would be my max 100%.
Okay.
I can tell you for the black vote, since you said dip out, you probably got a few extra black votes because did
one of your black friends just text you that? Say, hey, tell him you got some black votes.
That's for me because I was like, I got to dip out.
Yeah.
And I've never heard Tub or Eric.
I'm not giving you that one. I say it all the time. Like I'm finna dip. I'm finna dip out here. Like, I say it all the time.
No, you haven't said, I'll dip out. He said it smooth. Mark Kaye said it smooth.
Yeah.
Yours is kind of like the electric slide with the left foot moving 2 more times than it needs to.
I don't even do the electric slide. Listen, I know where my whiteness ends and begins. It's right there. Now, in fairness, I realize I haven't said yet tonight, I hate this show. All right, I'm saying it now. I hate this show.
So
Mark,
coming from the fourth largest economy in the world, I want to say this: that incrementalism is tantamount to libertarianism. And one of the most incremental things we could do right now is term limits.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no excuse for somebody making a seat in Congress or the Senate a career.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing good that can come from that. At any aspect in history, any politician that stays in power for an extended period of time has become corrupt. I don't care left, right, center.
Yep.
That is always held true to all of mankind, that anybody who stays in power too long becomes corrupt and dangerous to the basic liberty of mankind.
Mhm.
And so I think we can say if Republicans can lead that charge, they will get libertarian votes.
Yeah.
You know, if that, I honestly believe that.
It
And-
was
Uh,
in the original bill, and I think it's still in the existing bill, it was grandfathered in. So if you're currently in Congress, you can stay there till you die. But anybody new coming in
Dang.
would be limited. And that changes the scope immediately of who's even going to run. Because the
Yeah.
people who are wealthy already and made their mark in business and are now just looking for power for the rest of their lives, they're not going to waste their time with that. And you're going to have people who can dedicate. It should be service. You're serving in Congress, just like the military. You do it for the amount of time that you're relevant, and then you leave and you go back to the private sector. But that it changes immediately who's going to be running in the next election, knowing that they're limited to 6 or 8 years.
I feel like that grandfather part of that should be like the poison. That could have been the poison pill for the bill. Like I probably wouldn't have voted for it if you're grandfathering in John Rutherford, for example, if he wins his primary, if that makes sense. Like to me, that almost seems like a poison pill to grandfather in the people we want to get rid of.
Well,
But
but
I
that's
think you
how
take
the
the- I think you
grandfather
take the
got the
win.
votes in the Congress. Yeah.
I think you take the win, though. It's kind of like what Marcus was saying. I think you say, okay, you know what? It sucks. It's not great, but
Right.
it's a step in the right direction. And we finally start letting these guys die out, like literally die out, and then we can start over again. So I'm with you, Eric. You're kind of like, wait a minute, but I see where I could go. You know what? That's a step.
Yeah.
Let's start making the.
I mean-
let's start
I mean, I
making the
get it.
turn.
All the terrible ones are, or most of the terrible ones are really old anyways, so they'll die soon. But that's my dark humor. Real quick, Dee had some good comments. We didn't get a chance to, so some rapid fire. I think she asked, like, would you be open to, or do you agree with single issue bills, or do you think all bills should be single issue bills?
That's
Quick
great.
yes or
Thank
no.
you, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like a single issue bill. I think it makes more sense to be for single issue bills. I understand why there are bigger bills, just because of the, again, and this all goes to the wasting of time. They waste a lot of money in Congress, but they waste a lot of time. Yes, I think single issue bills are preferable. But it's not a hard line in the sand for me. I think that everybody should read the bill. I think that's a big issue. I think you should know what you're voting for, and that goes along with voters too. I think that a lot of people, they'll support one of these bills with these fancy names, like these military acts that we have, but then they have money for Ukraine. That's the military that we're funding. There's other things, that are buried in them, and that's part of the problem. Single issue bills would be great, but then we would, I don't know how much stuff we would actually get done, because
That's fine too.
it takes like 3 weeks.
That's fine
for
also.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit of gridlock. I'm not against that at all. People always argue. They say, "Hey, listen, I hate the fact that the president will be one party and then the House will be set." And I'm like, no. I'm perfectly fine
Right.
when Senate's one way and the House is another way. Let's slow things down a little bit.
All right. So another
we
one,
got another-
Marcus, go ahead. And Tub, this needs your input.
Yeah,
Tell Mark about
this
your
is the
property
Tub
tax
question.
plan.
Tell Mark your property tax plan
Oh,
for the
okay.
great
So
write-up.
we had a conversation with Jerry Holland here also about it. So the way I had suggested is that technically it would become like a sales tax. Okay, so you would pay X amount of dollars, and it's easy to say 10% just for number wise. So you say roughly 10%, and then you have the option. So if you bought a $300,000 house, you got $30,000 in property tax, and you have a couple options. One is you can factor it into your mortgage. And then so basically your mortgage then becomes $330,000. The taxes are all paid at that point. Once the loan company makes a loan, they pay off your taxes. You pay it off through the mortgage. Once your mortgage is satisfied, you're done. Your property taxes are done at that point. Okay. Or you can, even at the point of sale, you can pay off all your property taxes beforehand. So, hey, here are my taxes. I'm done. Some people have tried to say, well, it won't work because you need money coming in, which I get. You have to have the money coming in. But every time property is sold, they'll get that money in there again. So what it does is it promotes property ownership, home ownership. It shows that people won't lose their homes after they lived in them their entire lives, and that they're going to lose them to property taxes, which is not uncommon because 2 houses down from me right here along the river, that's exactly what happened. Back taxes, he bought the house out for the people basically who were in it because they couldn't pay them. They lost the property. So then when I've added taxes, people start trying to figure out, well, how do we make that work now? Because if I own my house, so I say, okay, fine, here's what you could do. And it's going to take some legwork on the homeowner. They have to go through and figure out what will my property tax be? What have I paid so far? How much more do I owe? So they got to do some legwork in this too. But moving forward, it'd be very clear. Here's the sale. And let me be very clear. The 10%, those numbers can be messed around a little bit. You know what I'm saying? To find the number, if nothing else, let's get us to neutral. So the property tax coming in is neutral, if you will. Kind of like what the fair tax does, keeps it neutral, but it also gets people that they own their property outright, and they don't have to worry about that issue anymore. So I look at that, and then here's the good thing is, as that plan moves on, you can always start lowering that percentage over the years to get us, because what do I want? I want zero property tax, obviously. So I look at it as incrementalism, like we talked about earlier. We start at 10, work our way down.
Let me ask you. Okay, so my property tax pays through my mortgage anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I see what you're saying. So if it's 10% flat rate and it's paid through the mortgage over 30 years, is there interest paid on that money as well to the mortgage company?
Well, that would be up to you. If you could pay it.
Yeah, because it would be part of your loan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm bored.
Or,
okay.
Yeah.
If I sell my
so basically your three.
If I sell my
your $300,000 house would sell for $330,000.
Okay, and
so that'd be all. So there would be interest paid on that loan.
Okay, if I sell my house, say 10 years down the road, and I've got 20 years left on my mortgage,
that's
then
on you.
I have
that's
to
your
pay
loss.
off. I have to pay off all the sales tax.
No, they already. The thing is, they'll already be paid off in your mortgage. So what happens? What I'm saying is, once you get your loan, you know how like the.
So the $300,000 goes to buy the house, and the government automatically. So you're basically what you're saying is you want to finance the 10% tax.
Yeah, you can, or you can pay it outright and just be done with it. However you want to do that. But here's what happens: if you sell that property, if you sell that property in 20 years, you basically pay 10 years of extra taxes. That's on you, though. That's your decision.
Right. It's
not government telling you. You decided. Now you got to take that hit. You might go, dang, I had 10 more years left. That's on you.
Yeah, and that's going to be bad for home flippers and real estate investors and people like that.
But so that's his point is it's essentially a sales tax, but it's not like a forever tax that you pay until you die. You will eventually own the home you live in. For it, if you find your forever home and you could pay the property taxes up front, you no longer have to pay local or your state property tax, whatever. You no longer have to pay that on the home you live in. But every time someone buys or sells, I guess every time you purchase a new property, there's going to be sales tax involved. But you could pay that off cash too. You don't have to keep paying it forever. Whenever you sell it, whoever buys it from you, they would have to pay that sales tax again too.
You do it with everything else you purchase functions that way. If I go and buy a shirt, I don't pay taxes on it the whole time I own that shirt. I pay my taxes based off of what that sale price is, and I'm done. And so we basically want to do the same thing for property. Now, like I said, because I'm not saying no taxes, because I understand that we have services to pay for.
The difference there, though, I mean, if you really want to get technical with it, is if it's a new home, I get that. But if you if you took off your shirt and sold it to me, I wouldn't pay tax on it. I'd give you $10, and you'd give me
That's a nice shirt.
Okay, fine. I'll give you $20. So there's not. I mean, if I sell my car again, like a used car, I'm not selling. No one's going to be paying taxes on that. But a house, why would I then pay it if it was a used house?
So we've had this argument from people in the real estate world that basically said this would hurt. Well, and people that love government and government programs and their public schools, like, where are we going to get the funding for my roads from? My roads. You know what I mean?
But this also forces them to cut back on spending, because the way I see it is this: as long as they keep having money coming in, they're going to keep spending it. So the only way to kind of get some of that spending under control is to give them less funds, so that now they have to focus on the things that are really important instead of funding stadiums. Yeah, that's a whole other argument.
I mean, it's interesting for sure. I'm okay with that. I don't like I mean, I'm not a big tax. I don't like taxes at all. But that's an interesting plan.
Well,
All right,
Mark,
are you
also,
What else did-
I want to make the point though, like that issue is a state issue, and I think
Yes.
Ron DeSantis is pushing this something similar to this right now, but he's a lame duck governor on his way out. Now, if Byron Donalds or whoever becomes the Republican nominee adopts that, then we could say Tubb, when he ran for lieutenant governor as a libertarian, he pushed this issue, and Byron Donalds adopted it because Ron DeSantis liked it and stole it. That's what we're gonna say.
And I don't care who. Hold on, I don't care who steals this idea. I don't care who adds to it. Whoever implements it, don't care. I just want the idea to go through wherever it goes. I would like to have it done where people don't have to worry about losing their houses to government simply because they didn't pay their property taxes.
Okay, so that's a grand issue to talk about. The last issue, because we're coming up on the last issue I want to talk about is why isn't the federal government arresting CCP illegal immigrants? There's too many damn commies here in California, and they're coming from the CCP. Mark Kaye,
Communist Party.
Chinese Communist Party. We haven't been controversial enough tonight, so I want to get into some ethnic and
Whoa, I don't. He's not trying to.
That's all we talked about.
Y'all have a blessed night. We'll talk to you later on.
It's anyone seasoning their chicken from the Chinese Communist Party. That's what we need.
Hey, I will say Chinese 7 spices is very delicious on roasted chicken.
Yeah.
But what I will say is we are not focusing enough because we have enough hot Latinas here in Southern California.
Well, first off, Marcus, I'm going to interject here, if you don't mind. Mark
I hope your
Kaye
wife is watching.
Running. Yeah, well, she lives with one. Right? Anyways, Mark Kaye is running for Congress in Florida, so let's keep this Florida specific. Oh wait, it's Florida. There's Latinas and Latinos.
Go get one of your own Mark Kays
as well.
No, we do. I didn't know that they weren't. I didn't know that they weren't grabbing the CCP illegals as well. That's new. I'm going to have to study that, or I have to put a study in the field now. I didn't know about that.
Well,
don't encourage. Do not encourage Marcus.
No,
you know who they're not messing with.
To be about CCP illegals that are being allowed to own cash-only delicious food stores in Southern California that aren't paying any taxes, that are exploiting our system that we can exploit ourselves.
Hey, they sound like
problem for sure.
They sound like libertarians, not communists. To me.
I do, and I'm only pointing them out because I'm jealous and upset that they are proper capitalists, and we're sitting here paying homage to these federal agents jumping out and snatching up the guys that are selling popsicles on the streets nearby my house.
And tamales out of the trunk of the car. Can't we leave my tamale plug alone? My tamale plug did nothing.
Hey, Eric Parker, have you had a trunk tamale before?
Yes. Well, it was out of a 5-gallon bucket, and it was in Puerto Rico. You wasn't a tamale, but yes.
You have not had a proper trunk tamale. So I beg you, sir, not to inject yourself upon this subject matter. This is about Mark Kaye, and let me put up his donation link again.
See, now I'm hungry. Now I want a trunk tamale.
Yeah, they're the best tamale.
I've had lumpia out of some questionable containers before.
Yes, I had that one. Lumpia out of don't tell me where it's from. We're fine.
Yeah.
The Asian market and the Ocean Way, they cook some good lumpia.
Ignorance is bliss. So with that being said, I'm not saying this is ignorant to contribute to Mark Kaye's congressional success.
Marcus, you're doing a terrible job here.
Yeah, that's a horrible transition, by the way. You did not cover that one well at all.
Hey, Marcus, can you pull up the comment from D or that Liberty lady about Mark needing volunteers, phone callers, door knockers? I think that could be more important right now than the donation plug. I know Mark might disagree, But
No,
seriously, that might be the most important thing right now. We got to build a groundswell of grassroots patriots. There you go, Mark.
thank
And
you.
we
for
need them knocking on doors, volunteering. We need the grassroots, the few people in elected office in Jacksonville that are grassroots Republicans. We need endorsements for Mark Kaye from you. So we need an endorsement from Mike Gay, and we need an endorsement from Reginald Blunt. I know those two guys. If we could
get those guys, yeah.
endorsements, that would help a lot. And I'm going to need Dee to clip this, and I'll text it to Reginald.
I would like to see John Rutherford endorse Mark Kaye. So if we can get that,
That would be great.
That would be great.
That might hurt him.
I don't know. That's the last thing I want.
But I want John to go. I'm done. I got nothing here. I
just fold. But
I'm at it.
I'm
let
worried.
the kid have it. He's fine.
What I'm worried about, and Mark kind of alluded to this without saying it. What I'm worried about is because Mark Kaye's a real younger challenger, that Rutherford, like your whole game plan is to attack Rutherford, that he just retires and they bring in, like, no offense, I think you could beat him. He's terrible. He's unpopular, but they bring in like a Lenny Curry who was just meeting with Susie Wiles and Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like that would be like, then you got to change your game plan. I still think you could beat Lenny Curry, but I know we're getting off. We're trying to end this and I'm like ranting here, but seriously, I think Mark Kaye needs volunteers. He needs door knockers. He needs people sharing, reposting, retweeting, commenting on this podcast. Find your best clips of this where Marcus isn't talking about unseasoned chicken and share it. And
I did not specify meat for the record.
Well, I know you don't eat pork, so I can't say ribs again unless it's beef ribs.
Let me add to what Eric was saying, though.
That he also needs money. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I say, keep in mind, if you're not local and you can't go knock on doors, you can always donate. You can donate from anywhere.
Yes.
And then what we have to understand, people all across the country, everybody who's listening to this, you have to understand that in all reality, they might go, well, that's just a district in Florida. Absolutely not. Because once you get to DC, you affect everybody.
Correct.
And so John Rutherford is affecting you. I don't care what state you're living in.
Right. And two things to keep in mind. First of all, there is an FEC regulation that no single individual can give me more than $3,500. So if you wanted to give me more than $3,500, I'm sorry.
Get a friend.
Your limit is $3,500 or less. Number two, also, if you do want to volunteer or knock on doors or get involved at all, make plans to join us August 18th. It's a Monday night. You're not doing anything at Sneakers in Jacksonville Beach. And at Sneakers in Jacksonville Beach, we are going to we're going to have a big kickoff party, so we can meet you there. We can get your information. We'll get you all.
Mark, do you have a graphic or something that can be shared by the podcast for that?
I don't yet because I literally just booked it on my way down here, but I will get that up. We'll probably a month out start promoting that. So okay. I'll get that to you guys for sure. And I would all your help in promoting that would be awesome.
Okay.
I want to say a couple things before we close out today.
Are they going to be a quick couple things?
Yeah.
Are they going to be quick?
Wrap it up.
Yeah, let's put a word count on him, please.
First and foremost, I want to apologize to the entirety of the United States and the viewers that we have in England, Australia, Brazil, and I think it's the Netherlands, because we are international here. I want to apologize for bringing so many Florida people to you
at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's an insult to humanity, coming from the fourth largest economy in the world.
This isn't helping, Mark.
The fourth largest government economy in the world.
This has been a travesty to the intellect of most people, aside from Mark Kaye. Mark Kaye, I want to salute you, good sir. We want to thank everybody for coming in. I'm going to pass it to my co-host for their final words. And Mark, you will get the final say, absolutely, aside from our little goodbye thing. But Tub, in your closing statements.
Gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your time. Mr. Kaye, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate that.
Eric?
Yeah, Mark, I want to say it's crazy how this politics thing comes full circle. I had met the Macy's, Dee. was a huge follower of yours before she became a libertarian, and she still is a huge follower. So that means that's an unofficial. I'm sure she will endorse you regardless, but she's the Liberty lady. She'll endorse you, so you'll get a lot of libertarian votes. Now, in order for that to happen, I am not encouraging this, but in order to vote for Mark Kaye in the Republican primary, you have to be registered Republican to vote for him in the Republican primary. Now, I, as the treasurer of the Guilford County Libertarian Party, am not encouraging people to change their voter registration to Libertarian. But D, I don't know what she's registered as. She might encourage that. Anyways, that being said, great job. You got my support, and keep busting your tail. And it's going to be a long year, but I think you're going to hustle, and I think you're going to come out with a win. So good luck, sir.
Dude,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you. So I appreciate all your help. It was great. Well, meeting all of you for the first time. And I had so much fun on this podcast. I appreciate all your support. And I love, taking quite, like I said, I didn't really prepare anything because I like to see what everyone's thinking. And when I go to meetings, I just, listen to the questions and I give my answers and I see what the reaction is. But the reaction's been positive. And on this podcast today with the three of you guys, the reaction's been super positive. And I know that we all have a hunger for the Constitution and constitutionality and conservatives in Congress. And that's what I'm hoping to bring at least one out of the 435 of them. I want one of them to be a little bit more conservative than we have now.
Awesome. Marcus, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. In closing, I would just like to say, if it wasn't for me, this wouldn't have happened. And it's tough.
It's true.
And it's excuse me, sir, don't laugh or jest. While I did not do that to you in your closing remarks, my good sir.
Ours were truthful, that's why.
I just want to say this. If it wasn't for me, America would not understand that there is a wider voice than the mainstream.
Whiter or wider?
Wider. I will never promote you people in no way, shape, form, or fashion.
What do you mean, you
people?
You people. I am a what's his name?
All right, let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up, Marcus.
I'm sorry. No. Damn it. He
No.
At any rate, I want to thank you very much for coming on because you're one of our most epic guests.
Wow.
And it's been a grand pleasure for us to have you here because I was at your seminar. What was it, last week?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was there and I listened to you and you gave us a lot of great ideas because we're trying to elevate this because I think we're one of the few voices that wants to bring America, aside from the labels, together and just let the best ideas win. And that's what America has to get back to. And that's why we bring every single voice on this podcast, because it's all about the best ideas and bring the best shit that you have to the table. Excuse me, Tub. I'm sorry, but I had to say it that way. But thank you very much. And when we end this podcast, we always say the state slogan of the great state of New Hampshire: live free
Or die.
Or die.